Hey there.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. You know what? I don't know if you saw the beginning, but I was talking and there was no sound on, but I'm going to look at this as an opportunity that I was able to then repeat what I said in a much shorter time frame. So I think people will be got a lot more information in a shorter period of time, so it worked out for everybody.
I love it. I love it. You know, well, it always works out. You know what I'm saying? It always works out.
It always works out. If that's it, that's mindset for you, right? The difference between I call them growth owner versus fixed victim. For a fixed victim, it never works out. For a
Exactly.
growth owner, it always works out. A
That's the
mistake
one.
becomes an opportunity, right? So, anyways, that's not really what we're here to talk about, although these shows can go in
Although
any
we
direction.
could.
We can get into it. But I'm fascinated with the breathing. I was just saying, back in the day, I was always like one of those people that would roll their eyes when people would talk about like meditation and breathing, and I'd be
Yeah.
like, and I'm not a yogi. I'm not gonna like sit on the top of a mountain and do this for 4 hours. And then over the years, I've realized it doesn't have to be that, and it's kind of can be whatever you make it. And but I've realized, and I have my own routine that I've developed that really helps me. That I was just briefly talking about the importance and like, oh my God, is breathing important? And it's kind of like, this should be, to me, this is one of those things I'm always getting on my soapbox and talking about the things they don't teach in school that they should. And this is absolutely one of them. And I don't know if it ever will be because people still associate it with like, but it's getting a lot better.
Oh, it will. It for sure will.
I love it.
I
Okay,
think,
so tell me,
yeah,
tell me
like
everything.
as we're seeing like mental health on the rise, and as we're seeing like the destruction of, like, we're looking at the school system and being like, this is the most fucked system. Like, we're not preparing people for happiness and fulfillment. Like, I spent how long in school trying to find the X in math, and I still have no idea how to do that.
Yeah.
But no one taught me the importance of regulating my nervous system and bringing myself into a place of like happiness and fulfillment using my breath. And so I genuinely believe in our lifetime we're going to we are going to witness the reality of school systems actually shifting. And I don't think that the system is going to shift. I think we're going to have entrepreneurs, creatives, and innovators like innovating the school system. Like, I know for myself in with my friendship group, they're like, there's no way we're putting our kids in public school. Like, we're not putting our kids in public school. Like, that's not happening. We're going to innovate education. And I think it's not going to be the school systems changing. It's going to be innovators and entrepreneurs creating something new.
Okay, so as I said just a few moments ago, these always go in different directions. I never know. I like to just see where the conversation goes. Obviously, we're going to talk a lot about breathing, but let's just pause on this for a second, because like something you just said is funny, and to me, it just shows how the amount of people that feel this way is growing and growing. It's becoming more mainstream, I think, which is a great thing. Like, you use the example of how like where the X goes, and how I always use the example of like, I had to take, advanced algebra 2, but there were no subjects on like how to regulate your emotions, how to grow your finances exponentially using the law of compounding, like these basic life skills, how to get along with other people, just how to breathe, what did you call it? What was the term you used? Regulate your nervous system?
Yeah, like regulate our nervous system.
Yeah. So it's like, right, duh, and you're 100% right. The public school system, unfortunately, I think it's such a broken system that it's like, even if changes wanted to be made by a lot, like 99% of the staff in the school, like their hands are tied, and
Totally.
by all this stuff, and it's like they have to get permission, and then it's like they got to do a trial, and then it's like, okay, 2 years later, and it's like, no, by that time it's fucking too late. Your kid's brain's not figured out.
Exactly.
So yeah, private school is definitely a better opportunity for that stuff. And it's funny, I struggle because I did public school, and so I have my kids in public school now because I believe in public school in a way, and I didn't want them to be in these small specialized classes that I felt like weren't realistic. I wanted them to get a real taste of what the real world was like. But right, then they're still young enough where I don't think it really matters. They're 6 and 3, and now 3 weeks. But right, when they get
You have
older,
a 3-week-old baby?
Yes. Sorry. You know what? My brain paused from 3 weeks ago. It's now 6 weeks, but the last 3 weeks has been such a blur that I've forgotten that it happened. So yeah, about 6 weeks now.
Oh my God,
All
congratulations.
boys, by the way. So I got that going for me.
That's amazing. Oh my God,
Madness.
congrats.
Thank you. The 6 and the 3-year-old are complete crazy people. But anyway, so right. So you know, you and I have a similar mission here. It sounds like, right? We need to break this stuff through to people on the outskirts so that it does become to where it's like, duh. And then public schools hopefully will eventually get on board with it. But right, we just got to fight the fight in the meantime, right?
That's right. That's right.
So tell me about your company. Tell me how you got into all this, and you know what's brought you here and where you're headed with it.
I experienced breath work when I was going through a really bad relationship with food and my body and anxiety. Like I experienced chronic anxiety to the point where like I would just wake up anxious every single day. My like anxiety was my resting position. I was just always anxious. And when people would say like, follow your intuition or listen to your heart, I'm like, I don't have access to that because the anxiety that I'm experiencing is like more intense and more chaotic than my intuition. So this feeling was like always overriding any sort of intuition or any like contentment or peace. Like I didn't experience what calmness feels like. And so as I was going through this, everyone was telling me to meditate. Like, Sam, if you just try meditation, if you calm your mind and get into your body. But the feeling of meditation was very uncomfortable for me because I didn't want to be still with my emotions. I wanted to keep busy and I wanted to distract myself, right? Like these distractions that just like pulled me out of my center. And so in that regard, it was an interesting it was an interesting time for me because I knew that I knew I've always been in personal development. Like my parents are super rad and my dad was like a big Tony Robbins fan. And so from 12 years old, I like knew about changing your life and changing your state and all that kind of stuff. But my body was not responding to the desires of my mind, right? Like I thought I was thinking so much about how do I feel better? And the truth is, if we want to feel better, we have to be better feelers. We have to actually get into our body. But when I was thinking about like feeling my emotions and meditating and all of that kind of stuff, it was like, it was just super uncomfortable for me. It was a place that I didn't want to hang out. I didn't want to hang out in the neighborhood of embodiment. I wanted to stay in my head and stay distracted. And that felt easier for me. So
Yep.
I ended up finding breathwork. Now it's been about 13 years ago. So this was before breathwork was cool. Like breathwork is super cool right now and everyone's talking about it. But 13 years ago, everyone's like, what are you doing? Like, what are you teaching? This is crazy. So I did a breathwork class and I came to this place of like, why does the whole world not know we can get into our bodies, clear our minds, open our hearts, regulate our nervous system, feel joyful, feel present, feel connected, feel all these amazing things that we're desiring to feel. And it's all on the other side of a deep breath. Like we don't have to do all of these things in order to feel a certain way. Like it's all about the embodiment of being. And so I use breath work in my own life in order to heal my eating disorder, move myself out of that chronic anxiety, and really allow myself to feel anything other than feeling anxious. And so I ended up getting to this place where I'm like, wow, this is amazing. And I really just became a student of the work for about 7 years. I took every breathwork certification on the market. I started teaching it at my retreats. I started teaching it to anyone who would listen. And then in 2000,
sorry to interrupt you. Can we pause there real quick? So you're taking, this is one thing that fascinates me. There's so many, like I was kind of saying earlier, alluding to, there's so many different methods. So like, which ones did you study and did you study like lots of them, and which ones did you sort of gravitate, which methods did you gravitate towards?
I studied all of them.
Okay. Good.
I always tell my students, like, I am a student before I'm a teacher. I teach all day long, but I train more, if you can believe that. So I studied all of them over the course of about 7 years. And I mean, there's some newer ones on the market now that are just popping up that I haven't done. But at the time, I did every single one. I searched out the sort of like the gurus or like the leaders at the time. And I was like, can you mentor me? Like, I want you to mentor me and teach me this whole breathing thing. Like I just got so obsessed with the industry and so obsessed with everything. So,
And did you get some of them to agree to that?
of course.
Okay, another success habit, ding, ding, ding. I'm just going to have to side note here. Be bold, people. Like, just do it. Like, ask. You don't get if you don't ask, right? She just said, these are the people I want to, like, be like, and I wonder if they'd mentor me, and she did it, and she had success. So, good lesson.
It's incredible, like, how a simple ask can get you so far. Like, you know, there's this really great book called I think it's called The Power of No. And it's about, like, learning, getting ourselves comfortable with people saying no to us. It's called Go for No. That's what it's called. And it's actually a sales book about sales or whatever, but it gets you comfortable. It's like, I want to get as many no's as possible because that means I'm going to get a yes eventually, right? And so I just, there's no harm in asking, right? Like, people reach out to me all the time of like, hey, can you mentor me for like just an hour? And if I have the time and it feels like a yes, I will do that, right? I also have paid mentorship and things like that. But it's just like, people want to help, especially in this industry. So yes, food for thought, ask for help.
Love it. Yes, love it.
So at the end of all of my training, I just looked and I was like, okay, there's elements to all of these trainings that I did that I really love, and there's some pieces that are missing. And so I began developing my own curriculum and my own body of work, which is now Pause Breathwork. And at Pause, we have our mobile app, so people can do breathwork on demand all day long, which is fun. And then we also have a breathwork certification training program. So for people who desire to be breathwork facilitators, we have a 6-month really beautiful opening transformational journey for people to do that. So I'm just obsessed with the industry. I'm obsessed with breathwork. I see the potential of how quickly people's lives can change when they do this work, because it doesn't take, you know, I chatted yesterday on my Instagram, like, healing doesn't take time, right? People say like, oh, it'll just take time. It actually doesn't. Healing takes awareness, it takes presence, it takes embodiment, it takes care, it takes love. But the clock ticking is not going to like heal our bodies, right?
Good point. Not on its own. It does take, I would counterpoint that time is an element, right? Because all that, but you have to do that work in order for the law of compounding in time to then kick in. Yeah, for sure.
But some people just wait and they don't do any work and they just wait for the time to go. It's like, that doesn't heal.
That's right.
Of course we live in a time-space reality, so it literally takes, you and I are taking time right here. So yes, life is gonna go on, but we don't need to wait 5, 10, 20 years to heal these parts of us that are like stuck in our body.
Love it. I totally agree with that. God, you're making all sorts of great points here. Yep. Okay. So continue on now with your journey. So you tried all these different things. You've got this app now. When did you develop the app? I mean, I assumed you had the company first and then the app sprung from the company?
It kind of happened at the same time. It was a very strange 3 weeks of my life where I was running a company called Hungry for Happiness, which was my first company, and that was to help women who struggle with body image and emotional eating. And I was running that company, and then I got this, I'm just going to call it a divine download because that's just the only thing that I can think of, where I got this very clear message that I need to teach the world to breathe. And because I was just a student of breathwork, like I said, I just loved it for myself, and I loved, like, I taught some of my clients on more of a small scale, but it kind of, this meditation showed me this whole vision of what it looks like. And that the vision that came in was planet Earth. And there was like thousands and thousands and thousands of these tiny little lights on planet Earth. And each light represented a breathwork facilitator who was sharing the power of breathwork to their community and their people. And so that was the vision that came through of like, it is time to train people how to responsibly teach breathwork, because it's a very intense thing to teach. It's a very, like, people, it's a very intense modality, right? If people go on like on a deep journey, when you have the wrong facilitator, you can risk re-traumatizing people, because it is a very deep thing, right? Staying in just your conscious brain and doing more of like an integrative style is fine, but once we go into those deeper layers, it takes a very trained person to do that. So that was the vision. And then the app just the app was in that vision as well. And I'm like, I'm like, okay, you want me to start a technology company, like an app? I don't even know how on earth am I going to do that. And there's a part of me that was like afraid of it. Like, I don't know, I'm going to mess this up. Like, what the heck? So anyway, it's weird now that I am the CEO and founder of a technology company when I'm not a tech person at all, but that's great.
Yeah, let me pause there. Two things that I'm hearing. So number one, when I hear the word app, I get heart palpitations. So it sounds like you have had the opposite experience, although I'm guessing in building your app, you had your fair share of frustrations, because I've never met anybody that's built an app that was like, I had an idea and I had these great developers, and within a month it was there and it was great. And right? I'm guessing you had some bumps in the road.
Well, every day is a bump. It is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, but it is smooth. It is more like simple. It makes sense. With my technology company, nothing makes sense, and everything costs 25,000 times more than you think.
That's right. So this is where there's two things. Number one, I wanted to pair this with another ding 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 side success habit. You're full of them, which is, you were super passionate about something, and I'm always stressing this. And again, I feel like sometimes people hear this and they roll their eyes, like, just do what you're passionate about and use your strengths. If you just hear that, yes, I mean, it is, then that, of course, but you've got to know what to do with that. And for you, you still got to pay your bills. And so I always tell people, like, right, I mean, do what you got to do to pay your bills. But if you're super passionate into something, make sure you're doing that on the side and building your side hustle or whatever it is. You didn't even know it was a side hustle. You were just really into breathing. You took all these classes and stuff. That is when you're going to hit the home run, because you're so into it. You live it, you breathe it, you sleep it. And then when you do run into these speed bumps and these difficulties along the way, they're not insurmountable. They're temporary obstacles waiting for solutions, right? Versus, oh, I knew it wasn't going to work, right? Going back to that fixed victim stuff versus the growth owner. I knew it wasn't going to work, so I'm just going to give up. But when you're super like, okay, this is my calling. I think would you define something, right? Whatever you want to call it. When you feel that in your soul, then it just makes it incrementally easier to push through those tough times and be persistent, because it's really hard. And building an app, I've built 3 of them now. Holy shnikes! I'm building one right now. I'm in my 3.5 years of building it, and I'm still don't have my MVP, but I'm looking to hopefully get that out in the next 2 months, right? Meaning 4, and it's going to cost 8 times as much as I think it's going to as we're speaking. Yeah. But I love what I'm doing, and similarly, habits, gamification, the stuff we're talking about, and trying to help the world, just like you're doing with breathing, help the world understand that there's a solution to these bad habits they have, and this broken system they grew up in doesn't have to define what they do and the habits they live and who they ultimately, compound into the person that they are, and they can figure it out themselves. But I feel like people need a system, and I feel like people are very, we're in this mode right now where everything has to be like instant gratification, and we're moving more and more towards this. Our discipline is eroding every day, that we can hit a button and get ourselves delivered in a car, anything delivered to us, just basically anything within an hour is, and I think that I'm trying to use that technology, and it sounds like you are too, which is the smart way to go about it, rather than fight it and be like, no, you need to shun that stuff. That stuff's bad for you, because then you're relying on willpower, and willpower doesn't work. You need to kind of, incorporate it into what you're doing and make it fun and interesting, and then and give them a system that will actually work, and then people will follow the steps. So it sounds like that's what your app does as well.
Yeah, I love what you said about discipline. It's so important, like learning the art of discipline and becoming a very disciplined person is one of the greatest skills and challenges, right? And so much of this is like really being in consent with ourselves when it comes to discipline. Like for me personally, like I don't have to prove I'm doing anything to anyone, right? Being a business owner, right? Which means I have got to be in self-consent with myself. If I say I'm going to get up at 5:30 and go to yoga for 6, like I get to do that, because what happens by breaking that is I'm breaking the integrity with myself. And when we break integrity, it is very hard to move ourselves forward, because then we begin to not trust ourselves.
I love that word. I use that word too, integrity. There's really no other. I've tried to find a different word for it, because people people confuse that word with, I feel like it kind of throws them off, but that's really what it is your personal integrity of making a commitment. The way I put it, I liked how you put it. It was, what did you say?
I forget now.
You allow yourself to get up. It'll come to you. But I use basically, if I make a commitment to myself, stick to it no matter what.
Oh, self-consent. Self-consent.
Yes,
yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, because it's like, trusting myself is really important. Some of the moves that I'm making with business and financially and from an organizational point of view, it really requires me to trust myself big time. And so if I'm breaking my trust on little things like not getting up when I say I'm going to, or, putting shit in my body that I shouldn't be eating, or skipping my workout for the day, like if I'm missing the mark on very easy, fundamental things, then it's going to be harder for me to actually trust myself with the big things that I'm doing to advance my mission forward. And that's a big deal, right? That's a big deal. So yeah, really learning to trust ourselves. So the reason why I was sharing that is like, what helps me so much in my day-to-day habits is having a compelling future that pulls me into it. And so how can I be the embodiment of my future self today? And how would my future self show up? Would she skip her workout, or would she make sure she gets there on time? Would she skip meals and not eat or eat crap? No, she wouldn't. She would choose food that is nourishing, gives her energy. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's like the daily habits are so important, and having a vision, a compelling future that pulls us into it is super important, because the way the mind is always trying to seek comfort. The mind is wired for survival, not to thrive, not for fulfillment, not for success, none of this stuff. It wants to be comfortable. And so the comfortable thing to do would be to sleep in and eat Cheetos and Netflix and chill every single night and smoke a bunch of weed and hang out with people that are shitty and have conversations that are about other people. Is that kind of thing. So it's really about fruit. Yep. That's it. And like a lot of people are hanging out in that consciousness, which is fine. And anyone, whatever, if you're on your own path, it doesn't matter. But like for people who identify as like a leader, someone who wants to achieve things, someone who wants to do big things in the world, like we got to up our game. And so right now I need to operate as the version of me that's in my next chapter, right? The next vision I have for myself and for my company. It's like, I need to be an embodiment of that today so that I can pull that future to me.
I love it. Could not agree more. And it is, we started the conversation kind of talking about this broken school system, but really, it's a broken system in general, the things that we're kind of bred into focusing on. And really, it is those short-term dopamine hits that everybody's after. And one of my favorite quotes is from the great late Stan Lee, where he said, with great power, there must come great responsibility. Because what's happening is as our technology and our ability to basically do less is advancing with all these things around us, where you can just do all this Netflix and chill. There's 8 different streaming services you have. Most people can't even watch TV anymore. It's too boring. They have to have like their phone and their computer open and do it, right? And it's wreaking havoc on it. If we're not aware of it, then it's like you're just constantly sort of like chasing these little dopamine hits around. That does not lead to deep, fulfilling happiness like you and I are talking about. We both know that very clearly. It leads to this feeling of like, there's something missing in my life. Like,
that's it. Yeah.
Constant anxiety and stuff. And so it's figuring out, and going back to what you were saying with, I call it the Back to the Future list, but your future, self, basically that person that you want to be in the future, and kind of basing your habits and behaviors off that. I have this exercise I do with people. I don't know if you do it with what you do, but I force them to sort of go to the end. And I used to call it the funeral list, but that was a little too morbid. And I'm an 80s kid, so I was like, Back to the Future list sounds better. But basically, you're going to your funeral and you're being eulogized. And like, what do you want fucking said about you? Like, it's that simple. And that just cuts through all the bullshit and all this stuff that you think is important, and what that influencer did, and what you think you need to keep up with, and money, power, fame, celebrity, all that stuff just kind of goes out the window, because none of that's going to matter. You want people to say, and so I do it based on these 5 main areas of your life, these 5 cores: your mindset, your career and your finances, your relationships, your physical health, and your emotional health. And these are, to me, the 5 main areas we all share, and it's about continually growing in each. And it's like, where do you want to end up in each of these? And then you go back to the past, back to the future, you reverse engineer it, and you start building your habits based on that, right? And 1000% breathing is absolutely one of those, because you want people to say, you know, this person seemed to really have full control of their mind and their emotions. They were like a rock. They seem to always be able to center themselves. And I mean, I would let you maybe say what you would want to say at your funeral, because you're much further along in this breathing stuff than I am. But I would imagine, you know, things you would want said would then tie back to mastering your breathing as well.
Yeah. Or like having impact. Like my big, hairy, audacious goal is like helping 1 million people come back to their bodies, unlock their infinite potential through breath work, right? We have thousands of facilitators helping 1,000, you know, so it's fun to be able to track those metrics to like really bring us back to like that's just what I want to do before I die. So hopefully I get to live a long time.
Love it. It's a great goal, and you'll get there. And that's that. And I another success habit that you just kind of point out to people, how it's obviously you've read some of the same books I have, The Big Hairy Audacious Goal. But right, you want it to be measurable. Right? You don't want it to be vague. Like, I want to help the world, because that's just so hard to stay on track with, and you need those little rewards along the way to be like, oh wow, I've reached 10,000 now. Like, okay, I'm on my way. Like, there needs to be milestones. So. That's a great point. Let's get in a little bit to the actual techniques and themselves and how you do it. So I may have put my foot in my mouth earlier when I was like, you know, everybody can do it, whatever they're comfortable. So how they do it. So I'm sure there's the way you teach it. You don't just tell everybody, you know, just take my stuff and do it. I'm sure there's a specific way. Again, my personal way that I've developed that has worked for me, although I want to hear what you say, 'cause maybe I'll pivot, because I know I could use improvement in this area, is to at least once a day, I sort of will catch myself, and I call it CBPR. It's I catch, and then I breathe, and then I reflect, and then I pivot. And so the catch is like, all right, I'm like running around like crazy, or I'm dwelling on something, and I'm just not in a good space, and I'm all pissed off, and I'm anxious. And then the breathe is like that. All right, let's take 3 huge deep breaths. And along with that, I do the reflect, remind and reflect, which is like, okay, remind myself of everything I have going for me and what I am grateful for and how great my life actually is. And I kind of try to put whatever's going on into context of like the big scheme of things. And then the pivot is like, what can I do right now to actually take action on something that will make a difference? Like, can I solve this problem that I'm having?
That's so good.
Or can I, you know, or if there's nothing I can do for that particular thing I'm dwelling on, what can I focus on and pivot into that? Yeah. So that's how I'm using breathing right now. So I just want to give that as a context. I'd like to hear, you know, how you do it.
Yeah. So what you're naming there is more of like an integrative style. When we're doing integrative breath work, the intention for that is more like relaxation, ground, release anxiety. And there's many different techniques for this. That we have 5 different breathwork techniques depending on what our body's asking for that day. And then there's breathwork for like deep healing. So that's called meditative breathwork. That's when you're lying down and it's anywhere from like 20 minutes to 3 hours and you're not in your conscious brain. So for those of you who are on the app, there's take a breather, which is 3 minutes, 5 minutes, and 10 minutes. And that's that integrative style, right? Of like, we're not going out of our conscious brain. We can do it while we're like doing life, right? We can breathe while we're at work or whatever it is. And then there's the meditative, which is anchored towards healing, right? How can I do deep body healing, like those deep somatic practices, and use the breath in order to clear all of the like trauma and stuck energy in my body. And that is like one of the most powerful things on this planet, in my opinion. It's like taking someone who's like never read a personal development book in their life and teaching them that they are their own drug and they know how to heal their bodies through using the breath. It is truly one of the most amazing things. And they're like, the thing that I love most about breathwork is there is no ramp up period. Like, no one needs to be convinced of anything. No one needs to believe anything. Like, I've taken the most like Bro, dude. Okay, I'm gonna tell a quick story. I was teaching breathwork at a real estate conference a couple of years ago. There was 3,000 people in the audience, and there was maybe 2 women. Like, there were all these like real estate bros, like crush it, make money, like that type of vibe. And I'm like, oh God, I wonder how this is gonna go down. Will, the whole freaking room was in tears, bawling their eyes out. I was leaving, and these guys were coming up to me in droves, just being like, I finally forgave my dad, and oh my God, and this, and I felt my heart for the first time, and my mind is so clear, and I actually don't give a fuck about money. What I really care about is impact and family. And it was just like the most amazing thing. Like, I wasn't up on that stage being like, hey guys, we got to pay attention to, I was just like, hey, everyone shut up and breathe. Like, let's just do this. Let's not think about it. Like, the more we think, the dumber we get. Like, we just got to like shut our mouths, shut off our brains, learn how to breathe. Totally. Exactly. Yep.
Oh, I love that. So, right. I mean, right. A guy that's afraid to cry, I always stay away from. You gotta be in touch with your emotions. And
you gotta cry.
Me, that's another one of those isms that I feel like for better is changing in the world, and that it's becoming more okay for men to cry, whereas before it was like, what?
Yeah, if men are emotionally constipated, they turn into assholes. I mean, not just men.
Totally.
Anyone is emotionally constipated and not letting the energy flow through their body. We just get so wound up that we just start reacting. It's like, we gotta cry, we gotta scream, we gotta move our body, we gotta let the energy flow through the body, or else we're just like wound up.
Yeah, totally. And that ties to another habit, just since we're on that, of like, you know, it's, I think so many people, especially those fixed victims we're talking about, you know, they'll look at how other people act and treat them and react to them, and they'll take that personally, and they'll, you know, think that that's a reflection of who they are, and then they'll get down on themselves, versus like what you were just saying, like, I like that emotionally constipated people, like, you can't help that person. And so, you know, I mean, you and I can, but they have to be willing to help. But in general, if you're just having an interaction with them, you just gotta just be like, I got into a habit where I literally just feel sorry for them. Like, that works really well, where it's like, oh man, your life must really suck if you're like such a dick, you know? And
well, it's like hurt people, right?
Right.
And we can't hurt other people worse than we hurt ourselves. So if someone is being a dickhead, you're right. It's like, we get to have compassion for them, because there's like they're in a torture chamber.
They're in a torture chamber, right? And right, you and I have dedicated our lives to helping people get out of torture chambers. But if they don't want the help, you can't force them. And that's why, I mean, you know, so anyways.
And not everyone, last thing I'll say on this, and I got a hard stop in 2 minutes, but the last thing I'll say on this is, not everyone is here to awaken and heal. Not everyone is here to do the work. And I think that when I first started my career, I was like, I want everyone to know how great breathwork is, and I want everyone to heal. And like, the fact is like, some souls came to this planet to just do what they're doing and not actually see the light. And that's okay.
That's right. So real quick, you said you had a hard stop. I want to finish strong with this breathing stuff. So were you saying, of the different types of breathing, that you think that the meditative is the most powerful? So
everyone start with the integrative. So if you're gonna try the app out, there's a section that says take a breather, right? So those are 3-minute sessions, 5-minute sessions, 10-minute sessions. Do that first and just feel what it feels like in your body. Breathwork is a completely different vibration to probably anything that you've ever done. Then listen to your body. If you want to do the longer sessions, do the longer sessions. But always remember, when it comes to breathwork, you are your highest authority. So listen to your body over my cues on the app. And for those of you who don't have it yet, it's just pause breathwork in the Apple Store, and you'll be able to, there's a 2-week free trial there.
Perfect. I think, that's perfect. And then where else can people find you? Instagram, you're Samantha, let's see. You go ahead.
Samantha Skelly on Instagram, and then the website pausebreathwork.com. If you desire to become a breathwork facilitator, there's an application process there. Everything Pause Breathwork is at pausebreathwork.com.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. I feel like we could go on and on.
Totally.
This was awesome. I definitely want to keep in touch and connect with you. This is something that I know I'm personally working on, and I'm going to check out the app for sure.
100%. Teach those boys of yours.
For sure, absolutely. I want to take it to the next level, right? I like how you broke it into these 3 stages, and I'm stuck on that first one. And there's a lot more opportunity out there for me, so I'm gonna check it out. Everybody else do the same. Thank you so much. Such a pleasure talking to you, Samantha, and we'll talk soon.
It's great to meet you, Will. Thanks for having me on.
That's it for the 5 Core Life. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that like button on this video and pound that subscribe button so you get notified when new episodes drop. Also, please fill out the free 5 Core Life Evaluator quiz. It's a great way to get a baseline of where you are in the 5 cores and which of the 5 cores you need support. In addition, you'll get some actionable advice that you can apply and start improving your life in the areas that you need it most. That's it for today's episode of the 5 Core Life Podcast. Have a wonderful day.
Get moving. Gain momentum. Join the movement. Join Emmett by going to moremomentum.com to take a free life evaluator quiz on where you currently stand in each of your 5 cores.